Zigga zigga zoom! Welcome to the Doom Room. I'm doomed. I'm Alex.
Boom boom! You're in the Doom Room. I'm Justin, and I'm doomed.
I'm Pete.
And we are on episode 3. We're definitely going to run out of rhyming things pretty soon, but we're going to be talking about...
I've said the same one every time, I think. I ran out at the beginning.
Yeah, so far. Season 1, episode 3, Puppet Patrol. So very exciting to give you a little bit of recap and reminder in case you're checking back in with these episodes later on. The Doom Patrol is looking for their missing chief, who has been taken by Mr. Nobody, played by Alan Tiddick. In this episode, they head down to Paraguay to try to track him down and instead find a bunch of Nazi puppets and fight them. Other things go on throughout the course of the episode. We find out a lot more about our characters, particularly Larry Trainer, a.k.a. Negative Man. Big episode for him, but big episode for everybody, and most of all, big episode for us. Pete... I do actually want to start with you.
Whoa, really?
Yes, because, and this is kind of like a shocking take. You don't like Nazis, right? As far as I'm aware.
This was my favorite episode because there is nothing better than ripping Nazis in half and beating Nazis to death with half of a dead Nazi body. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just like living life.
Now, for a counterpoint, Justin, you love Nazis, right?
That is the head-to-head we're going to take here. Well, let me throw this out. I don't love Nazis, but there is really only one Nazi in this episode, puppeting many, many regular people who may or may not have been Nazis, Pete. So,
don't throw that at me.
So you got to think about it. There was really
I feel bad.
A lot of those people.
Fun.
A lot of those people were Bavarians, a rich culture, a rich German culture.
Loved their pretzels.
Loved pretzels, their beer, and their fondness for short pants and flowing tops.
Mm-hmm. So that is really too bad. The reason I was actually asking, though, is I know generally you get uncomfortable with anything that involves the Nazis, but it sounds like you were okay with it since they were getting the shit kicked out of them, so that's all right. Yeah. But why don't we take it back to the beginning here?
I mean, that really makes me concerned. I don't know why you think like normally I'm trying to think of when in the past where I've been like, hey, Alex, take it easy on those Nazi scum.
No, that's not what I was saying. You've not been like, whoa, slow pedal, the Nazi hate, one Jewish member of the podcast. What you have done is like you've just very much not wanted to be involved in anything that mentions Nazis in any way.
Yeah.
Which is fair. That's fine. I think a zero tolerance policy for Nazis is an okay policy to have. That's just fine.
Cool.
I mean, the thing is, having Nazis are like the villain. It's like the 20th century villain. So it's a go-to. And I think, if anything, it's a little exhausting
for
to
a longer
constantly...
time than the 20th century. I would say it's a kind of
they weren't around much before the 20th century.
Okay, all right.
Nazis.
Well, I'm just saying from when they showed up
time
till
travelers.
Now.
Time traveling Nazis. They were very active in dinosaur times too.
Yes, exactly. The Nazi dinosaurs are the worst.
Terrible.
Worst kind of dinosaur.
Terrible. The ideology is confusing at best.
Indeed. What about Hannibal Lecter?
That's where I wanted to start.
On,
That's where I wanted to start because we can't skip over the most important character that's getting teased here. Obviously, Pete and I know because we've watched a couple of episodes. Pete, do you want to review how many episodes we've each watched again?
I think we're covered on that. Let me just say, I think we don't need to do
okay. Obviously, huge character coming down the pike. I actually don't remember if this comes back in any way.
I don't think it does.
I don't think it does. But very funny. I want to meet that hamster someday.
So badly, yes.
Do you think that hamster eats other hamsters, though?
Yeah.
No, I think that hamster eats other humans. Eats humans.
Oh, man.
Wild.
Here's the thing. Why my sister had hamsters named Coyote and Roadrunner.
Gave birth to hamsters?
Yes, 2 hamsters. Immaculate
Alex,
birth.
why would you ask that?
You said had. That implies something.
Yeah. Richard Gere gave birth to a hamster, I believe, at one point.
My God. What is happening?
Differently,
yeah.
My sister. Way.
My sister had a good term to throw out there. My sister had hamsters, Coyote and Roadrunner, and I'll tell you what, Coyote ate Roadrunner.
Oh, that's horrifying.
It was a hamster that ate another hamster.
Oh, why would you bring that up? Oh, that is awful.
It was literally what we were talking about.
Yeah, we were talking about hamsters eating other hamsters, so it's actually very applicable. That was great. Love the thing immediately after that with Jade putting up the "Have you seen this chief?" signs all over town. And just this whole opening sequence was very fun. And there's less of a focus on Jane in this episode, even though she does get some fun hero moments throughout. But giving her this like punk rock counterculture aesthetic throughout, that felt like the big thing they were driving home for her throughout this episode.
Yeah, I mean, the reveal of like you think it's just her, and then the kind of like pan out of the angry mob that's following her. You know, I mean, that's got to feel good.
The town's mad.
Yeah, it's got to feel good to staple somebody in the forehead, though. You know what I mean? Like
that's the thing.
Terrible.
That guy did not really. He didn't move fast enough. Mm-hmm. He had to see that coming.
You had to. I mean.
Maybe she was the personality that moves quickly with staplers. That's a possibility. We haven't really been introduced to that yet. Staplo.
Staplo. Let me say, before we get too far into it, this show is great. I can't believe no one told us about it coming into it. Like this show.
It's literally the thing that we get the most is people being like, why aren't you talking about the show?
Well, I think those people should have tried a little bit harder because I would have really enjoyed this earlier on in my life. It's so fun. It's really well balanced, at least these first 3 episodes, between the different characters. They're all dealing with similar, like, tragic flaws that they keep not dealing with.
Oh, it's driving me nuts. In this episode, I am over Trainer, dude. I am so sick of his shit. It's ridiculous.
But what I was going to say is, even though they're going through very similar sort of journeys, each one feels different, and I like all the characters, and I feel sorry for them. At the same time, I'm like, come on, get it together.
I want to get back to this crazy Trainer hate that you have, Pete, in a second, but I do want to mention in terms of the viewing thing, one of the reasons I think the show was hurt was it was on DC Universe for the first 2 seasons, something like that, which was a very underwatched
not
service.
Good place.
Yeah, not a great place for it, and not easy to find, not easy to watch, not easy to track down. Certainly, hold on.
Okay.
I think it hasn't necessarily seen an explosion, but it's gone to a much wider audience now that it's on HBO Max, and I think that's something they do. They knew if they moved it over there to HBO Max, it's not just going to move that same audience over, but it's actually going to grow the audience naturally. But also, like you're saying, it's a good show, so people are able to go back. You're also, I think the other part of it that I would speculate is you're not necessarily getting into a show episode by episode. By the point it's on HBO Max, they were going into the 3rd season, so you already know, there's that back catalog if I can watch 2 full seasons of the show. And I think people are very hesitant to get into a new superhero show or any new show that they think is going to be instantly canceled. You know, particularly like something on DC Universe, everybody knew that's just not going to be around for a while. So I think if you were hesitant at all, you're like, nah, I'm out.
Everybody did know. I was pulling for it. I also just want to say, like, this show has been a fan favorite for a long time. So it's one of those things where the fans have been keeping this show alive and keeping it going, even though it's had different platforms and kind of different audiences as far as how many people are watching it. But it's definitely the little show that could, because it's been really solid since the first step, as we're all finding out now.
It's really funny at the same time having excellent drama going. And tonally, it reminds me sort of a cross between the old The Tick cartoons, like the really great episodes of The Tick, and Preacher, the TV show Preacher.
It's a fun cross there. I like what you did. Yeah. There are just, every episode there has been a real laugh out loud moment. And a
bunch of them.
Yeah, it's been impressive that, like, even going back and watching this again, it still gets me. It's really such a good show.
Well, to be fair, you are the sort of person who watches things a lot of times and enjoys them every time, which is a very laudable trait.
To be fair.
Like a goldfish, a human goldfish.
That's right.
Well, I did have another question for you while we're working through the beginning here, Pete. Right after the scene with Jane, we go over to Cliff exploring the chief's office, looking for clues, and he finds an entire drawer filled with, I believe it's Kit Kat wrappers that he's eaten, and was like, ooh, he probably had diabetes. Do you have a drawer like that in your house? You're a big candy fan.
Candyman.
Oh, my God. I feel so... called out right now. Yeah, no, I'm not going to open up my drawer of candy. And,
I'm not. Okay. I wasn't actually asking you to open it up. I was asking if you had it, and I guess the answer is yes.
Yes, I
and
do.
You reminded him. Now he's fiending.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I don't. Hopefully, I don't ever get diabetes. But man, I'm a.
Hey, we're
I'm
not
a
here to get
candy drawer.
We're not your parents.
We're not diagnosing you with diabetes here live on the podcast or anything. Do you want us to?
No. I should go see my doctor. You're right.
Pete's like, Pete. We bring up candy, and Pete's like, "Are you a cop? You fucking cop."
Listen, don't tell anybody, all right? But yeah, I got some candy, all right?
You're a grown man. You could have a candy drawer if you want in your room full of comic books.
I do love what this brings up, though, just in terms of the overall relationship with the episode. And we were talking about this last week as well, last episode as well, with the Cyborg introduction, where there's this big push and pull here between him wanting to act like a superhero team and nobody else wanting to do that or know what that means, which segues really nicely into this very fun briefing sequence where everybody's just taking the shit out of him the entire time.
Oh, my God. I want to back up the truck a little bit. We get to see...
Do you want to talk about Hannibal Lecter again?
Yeah, I mean, I really want to take it back to the DC flip, but I won't. To see the Vic and Mom stuff was so powerful. We get to kind of see the accident. But if you notice, it seemed like when he kind of like flipped over the stuff and then rewatched the footage.
Sorry, was he DC flipping over the stuff? Or
It's a good call. The only flip in the episode.
It looked like there was a bigger explosion that came not from Vic's explosion, but it looked like something else was happening.
I think it's pretty safe to say that there's something up with the accident that killed his mother. Because when he was like, "It's my fault," and then seeing it, and when he like literally did it, I was like, "This is too much here." Like this is clearly something. And I like the way again we're slow playing this mystery of Vic's dad probably faking this to shift the blame off something that he did that probably killed the mother.
But also like. Both his parents pretty cold as ice. You know what I mean? Like his mom also
I didn't think his mom was cold as ice. We only get that brief scene with her, and it seems like they have a pretty good relationship.
It seems like they have a great relationship, but she was just kind of like, "Hey, man, listen, this is, you fucked up. You're going to have to pay the price." Like, I was like, all right.
Your candy drawer is empty, and you can't believe you went too much in there, and you're in trouble. And he's like, "I love candy."
You have no idea, like the fucking tip of the iceberg that you guys are fucking dancing around right now when it comes to me and candy. All right, so let's just walk away because no, it's going to get dark, and you guys, yeah. All right, so let's just keep it moving. Okay.
Don't you mean the tip of the Mounds candy bar?
It definitely feels like you're some sort of witch luring us to your candy house right now. Like, whatever you do, don't ask about this enormous pile of candy that I have, guys.
Oh, my God.
How can we not? This is the only thing I can think about now. The Cyborg briefing stuff is great, though. Love the relationship between Cyborg and Cliff, who doesn't even know what a briefing is. Very fun.
I love that. Yeah, disseminate. Okay. Like he doesn't know. Cliff just has so many great lines in this episode. Look, that fucking donkey. Like just across the board, he's very funny.
I also
I bet Aquaman never loses his keys. Very funny.
Yeah. The also when we see Jack Trainer, the light being put him up on a beam, and the Post-it note was stuck to his head. I love this light being. I feel like, as far as like who is I'm team light being all the way.
So first of all, Larry Trainer.
Larry,
why don't we get
sorry.
into it right now? Because it is wild to me how negative you are about the storyline.
Yeah, you're the negative spirit. Pete.
Considering
don't you?
How the flashbacks are so poignantly emotional and so well tie into Larry Trainer's arc that he was a closeted gay man. He has all of these things inside of him, and he held everything inside. And now he is literally trapped in his body, completely closed off, completely hidden.
He's completely lying to himself. We get this heartbreaking flashback where he's in the truck with his boyfriend and also is just keeping his boyfriend at this distance that is just not fair, and like even his boyfriend called him out, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm the one with the issues." Like it's heartbreaking. Like first off, I don't know the struggle and the fact that he has to lie who he is and all that kind of stuff. But the boyfriend is being like, "Hey man, these people that we all are around would hate us if they knew who we are, and that's heartbreaking in itself. So to have him, be honest with this person and share who they are together, and then still kind of pushing him away, it's just heartbreaking. And then when he goes home and lies to his wife more about like how much, it's just.
But she knows.
She definitely knows something's going on, and then you get the laundry list of places that they've been running from.
I understand that you don't like that. Here, Pete, let me throw something out at you. I think you don't like it because it's well done drama. Like you are, because it's not like we're like, this is perfect. This is just how I would want it to go. I think we are emotionally invested in the story the same way, and that's why it's a successful little tale. And it is tragic.
If it helps you at all, Pete, in terms of somebody hiding a secret away, a big secret that they're keeping hidden, think about it as like some sort of, I don't know, candy addiction, something like that. Like, let's say you had a closet full of candy. You'd want the person to open that closet and let the candy come out, but they still wanted to keep it in there because then it's going to be all out over the rug. And what do they do? What do they do
when we use the term closeted, we're talking about candy here on this podcast.
Always.
It is tragic, and especially later on in the episode when, after the accident, when John comes to talk to him on the heels of his wife saying, like, I'm leaving. I can't do this anymore. She's doesn't relish that choice. She's upset as well. All the more tragic. No one's happy here. Then John comes and is like, hey, I'm here for you. I have to speak in code because everyone's here with me, but I'm staying. And then John is like, go. He only gives him one word. And then at that moment,
Larry is like, John is the guy.
Yeah, sorry, Larry says go, and John is like, knows in that
Mo,
one
I
moment.
think it was Larry and then Mo.
No, that's John.
Okay.
And Larry knows, or Larry is then alone again. Like he loses everything in this one thing, and just to see it all, except for this spirit that he has in him that he's also fighting with.
The thing that we don't necessarily explicitly get into in this episode, but I do think is always running under everything that Larry does, to the point that you're talking about, Pete, is he sees himself as a monster. He knows that he's cheating on his wife. He knows that if this ever comes out and he was true to himself, it would destroy his family. It would destroy this life as a test pilot that he leads. It would destroy absolutely everything. So he feels like a horrible person. And then when he finally looks like that on the outside, he is rejected by the life he thinks he is supposed to have, and then he rejects the life that he truly wants because he thinks he doesn't deserve it anymore.
Yeah, but
so
even
I think it's complicated, but it's very beautiful storytelling.
It's very well done. It's very well acted. It's very moving. I just want him to be honest with himself or the light being, because even when he's arguing with the light being and he was like, my life was perfect before you ruined it. It wasn't, it was on the verge of collapsing and whatever. But like, I want him to finally start being honest with himself and start treating this light being a little bit better, because this light being, has a ton of power over him and, can save his ass and also destroy things, as we saw with the truck, which is hysterical when he's driving and oh my God, that was so funny, where the light being trashes the truck and everybody's passed out.
Well, and I think even though he had all that secrecy, he was always in sort of the control of the situation. He was the one who was making the choices to hide himself. And now he's beholden to this. He's living another double life, except he doesn't have the power anymore. He's vulnerable here. He's still hiding his identity under these bandages. But there's the light being is sort of I do what I want. You're not capable of making good choices, so I'm going to make some of them for you, it feels like.
Yeah. And I'll just mention before we move on to another character, I do think the scene where he does get his humanity back is kind of incredible. And
great.
It ties into, this isn't exactly the right thing, but to talk about another comic book character, it's very like Ben Grimm, the Thing, whenever he becomes human again. And you get those brief touches of he's like, this is me, I'm human again. And then the rocks come over him for whatever reason, or he has to take his powers back to save everybody. Here, it's forced on Larry Trainor, so it's not even his choice. And it's probably not even real. Like, it was just imagined or part of this process or whatever was going on. And it's just unfortunate and sad that he gets thrust back into this life again.
Yeah,
but I do think
it was such a cool shot of him in the chamber, and then we saw Mr. Nobody get sliced into kind of bits, his bandages come off in a similar way, which artistically was done so well.
Yeah, he's freed from these bonds that hold him, but he hasn't learned anything. He immediately drops into I'm out of here. Yeah. You suck. Let me go.
It's so frustrating.
And I think that he can't be free of this. He hasn't learned anything yet. He's not ready to move on. He hasn't changed.
Well, and I also think this gets a little into the storyline that I wanted to talk to you about next with Rita and Cyborg. But I think across the board, something that this show does that is so smart is regular people don't learn lessons every 42 minutes.
I do. I learn a lesson every 42 minutes.
But watching a TV show, you're kind of used to everybody sitting around and being like, well, what's the lessons we learned here? So I've grown as a human being. And all of these characters are much more realistic despite their superpowers, where they're like, well, I learned nothing this episode. Leave me alone. The only thing I learned is I'm in stasis here. I'm happy the way I am, even though clearly I'm not happy, and I'm going to keep going that way. So all the character growth that we get, if we do get any character growth, it's 1%, 2%, rather than supposed to be this 100% character growth that oftentimes doesn't even carry forward until the next episode.
I'm glad you cut it off at 1%, because when you get into skim milk and stuff like that, then it's just gross. You know what I mean? 1%, 2% decent, but
the lowest percent.
Yeah.
My favorite is 3% milk.
Wow.
Ooh,
that's not a real thing.
Very expensive.
I add 1% and 2% together.
Smart.
I make it myself.
That's smart.
I don't know
if
that's how it works.
That was in that Die Hard thing where he had to fill the water jug with a certain amount of percent. Anyways,
I wish there were more beverages.
Now I have 3% milk, he says.
That's good.
Yeah.
I wish there were more beverages that were skim. Skim beer, skim. I love just the top. Whatever can just slide off the top of stuff.
Well, what's interesting is here's we see Jane, who has got a lot of issues herself, and it takes her 2 seconds to walk up to him and be like, listen, you douche waffle, you got to start treating people with respect. It's that simple. And it's it would have been nice if that leveled him and sunk in a little bit, but
Here's the thing. I don't know if you've ever noticed this in the real world, but it's often easier to diagnose someone else's problems than your own.
Ooh, wow. Yeah.
So, she's pretty comfortable
I don't get
being
that. Leave me alone.
Boom, boom. You're in the Doom room. I think she has a ton of problems, and she's like, you're a douche. You need to be nice. Yeah. But she's not working
douche waffle.
Yeah. She's not working on herself.
Yeah. But Jane does actually, I think, make some big moves this episode in terms of stepping up, which is interesting on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Well, she's like the hero here. She's the most, including Cyborg, she's the most heroic, I would argue, in this show. She's proactive. She makes choices. She dove into what we found out was the donkey mouth earlier in last episode. Yeah. And she's willing to make moves here that do put her at risk, even though she's not able to really face the issues that she has to deal with.
And I think that ties into what she puts on the window of the plate at the end of the episode. She writes out control is a weapon for fascists. And I think that points to she doesn't like anybody being in control. You know, she's looking for the chief now. She's saying that. But I think we saw pretty clearly when the chief was there, she didn't want to listen to the chief. When this guy at Fucktopia, Fucktopia. Fucktopia.
Wow.
Sorry, everybody.
That's disgusting.
Spell it.
Yes. When he tells her what he is going to do, she's like, nope, I'm absolutely not going to do that. So it's partially her being a hero, but it's also partially her just raging against the machine, no matter what the machine is.
Yeah, even if it's a puppet show.
Exactly.
My favorite thing to rage against.
That's what they were writing about, the band, right?
They hate puppets.
They saw one marionette show in the park, and they're like, that's it. Here comes our album.
Yep.
Yeah. So when they say rally around the family with a pocket full of shells, the family they're talking about are the Muppets.
Right. And the pocket full of shells is peanut shells.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They love peanuts and hate puppets. Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah.
Check them out, yo.
Oh, man.
Let's talk about Cyborg and Rita, though, because I do think this is a really interesting relationship that's developing along the same lines. This very much refusal of the call of being a hero. Rita is digging in her heels the most, but Cyborg is pushing against her the most. So how did you feel about how that played out in this episode?
Well, first off, the timing of like, you know, Rita, get out of the bathroom, like, hurry, we're going to go do this. And then everybody being like, fine, let's just leave her. And she's like, I'm ready. And they're gone. It was just magical. That was just really fun. The comedy of we've pointed out numerous times. It's just so enjoyable.
Well, and she can't control her powers. She's losing control of her powers, so she's refusing to do anything. In an episode where Rita and Cyborg get left behind, they're like pretty chill about it. And even when they catch up, they're like, "Wow,
hey, what's up?
All right, yeah."
I mean, it's interesting because Rita does reveal that like she started to get a grip on things and be able to control it. And then when Mr. Nobody came, it kind of like really shattered her and kind of brought her back to square one or worse than before. Which is, you know, an interesting kind of thing of like she's really struggling, even though kind of like mention of him, like her face started to go. But it's interesting to have Vic kind of be sitting there and be like, hey, like, let's go, let's do things. And she's like, what can I do? What do you think can happen? This reality that kind of Vic is fighting against. So the two of them kind of being sidelined. And as, you know, a trainer pointed out, like, yeah, he was the only one with any kind of hero experience and we didn't bring him along. That's not a good idea.
We also meet a really important character in their sequence, Ring Ding.
Is he the guy waiting for the bus?
No, he's the guy when Cyborg's working on the van. And he says,
what's his Ryan? It's like, I'm Ring Ding Dingling or something like that.
Yeah.
He just says his name's Ring Ding, which brings me to an important lesson. Mm-hmm. Be careful with your nickname because that guy's walking around being proud of Ring Ding. You got to workshop this stuff.
Wait, I was thinking of Ding Dongs. Ding Dongs are the chocolate discs with cream in the middle, right?
Let's check in with Pete on that one.
Yeah, that's good.
I was going to say it's a good nickname because Ding Dongs are pretty good, but
Ring Ding is a treat.
Yeah.
Right, Pete? Right, Pete? Treat Pete?
Yes,
hey, Treat Pete. Is Ring Ding a thing?
Yep, it also is a thing. Yeah.
Treat Pete and Ring Ding.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Oh no!
Wow, that happened really organically. I can't believe how that worked out.
We do actually get to meet a very fun character in this episode, though, which is Steve, the tourist, who pairs along with him the entire time. He's played by Alex. What?
Poor Steve.
Oh no! Steve's so happy. What are you talking about?
Are you talking about Raptor Face Celery Hand?
Yeah.
No, this is an actual character for the comics. This is Animal Vegetable Mineral Man. Yes. He was introduced in Doom Patrol number 89. He's played by Alec Mapa here. It's crazy. I mean, it looks crazy, but I love his reaction at the end. That makes me laugh out loud, just being so pleased about his dinosaur head on his head. Very fun.
Very fun. Also, he's like, was I in there too long? That was so funny. Just so
that's
perfect.
the thing. There was this moment where Cliff was like, hey, should we sweep and look for people? And then Jane was like, no, we're torching this whole thing, you know. But poor Steve was still in there, which was like, you guys came with Steve. You could at least look for him a little bit, but I guess they didn't really
I don't
care
think
about
he was
Steve.
really part of the team, though.
Well, no, but he was
I think
there.
they were kind of
helped.
put off, though. They were put off when he first said, they asked him what power he wanted. And he said, magnet feet.
Yeah.
They're like, why do you want that? To climb up walls. Very funny.
Metal walls.
But it's not a lot of walls are made of pure metal.
Yeah.
He's not climbing very many walls.
You can climb
He's
up the bean.
Climb the bean.
In Chicago.
Thanks. Yeah, we didn't know what you were talking about.
I just didn't want people to think I'm saying climb up random beans. Climb up the bean in Chicago. Or, like you're saying, the Statue of Liberty. You could probably climb on. Is that
no, it's not because it's copper.
All right. I guess I don't know what the bean is made out of either.
Really, Alex? You don't know?
It's weird I wasn't able to pull that fact out of my head. We meet him. What else? I feel like there's somebody we're missing in the episode.
His commentary, like during the puppet show, was really fun. Like his oh well, I guess this is all Nazis. He's like, I'm still in.
I love that he's the Nazi stuff. He's sort of like,
didn't see that in the brochure.
Oh well.
And I also it's such an easy joke, but the length joke with the puppet show where they start it and then cut to 3 hours later, very fun.
Yeah. I mean, just the whole Fuktopia sequence, like arriving there, having the weird puppet show, and then learning later that everyone's being puppeted by the Nazi, like von Fuchs is just great. It was really well done.
And even when he dies, like the detail of the puppet, like dying as well, just really good.
Well, and it's also just on a thematic level a really good villain for them, right? Because you have somebody who is all about control, is all about everybody is the same, everybody is me, and they're all these weird individual characters that just don't fit together as a team, and so they're contrasting with that. So just on that level, I think it works really nicely for a superhero story as well.
I just wanted to say, just like when the puppet show started and how Cliff was like, what the fuck? Like, just great use of swearing in this episode. I love it. And I just want to circle back around to douche waffle. I mean, as someone who likes to use the word douchebag, I really appreciated douche
Real
waffle.
creative take on it.
Yeah.
I feel like that may be entering your high vernacular.
Yeah.
A couple of other moments to call out that I really liked. I just love the whole trip to Paraguay. The fact that they pull out the bus, it's going to take 2 weeks. The bus driving so long. The bus driving over the map was very fun visual. I think it was Cliff and Vic pushing the bus at the end to the hotel. Also very fun.
Also, the fact that Rita's the oldest and she was driving so slow was really fun. That it was driving everybody else insane.
And Cyborg being like, I'm going to get the PJ. And, we've all been there, obviously. You don't get the keys.
Wait, what?
The private jet. The private jet.
Oh, private jet. PJ. Yeah, I was like.
Oh, wow. I guess you guys
I thought there was a
travel.
cool, fast way of saying peanut butter and jelly. You were skipping the beep.
It is a cool, fast way of saying something, but not what you think.
But overall, really good episode.
Wait, sorry, Alex. One other thing real quick. Now, do you feel like you and your family, like to your kids, need a cooler, faster way to say peanut butter and jelly?
We're wasting a lot of time.
PB and J
We're wasting a lot of time on that middle letter. We have other things to do.
Wow.
Like, kids, we got to go to school. PJ, that's how we say it. We're like, put
down
on
with
my
ampersand.
PJs.
Put on your
I'm like,
PJs?
No, don't put on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Oh, my God.
It's a whole thing every morning.
All right. Was I the only one who was really having fun when it was just Nazi ass-kicking time?
No, it was great fight sequence.
I was sad because I like Nazis, just to loop back to our conversation from the top
our
of the
early
show.
conversation.
You've really come a long way, man.
I do. Cliff murdering them and then feeling instant remorse, I thought was sort of...
It was weird because it was like he blacked out and then kind of like came to and was like, oh, what did I do? It was a weird moment because I was having fun with Cliff, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, wait, am I supposed to feel bad about this?
Well, he hasn't done anything like this before, right? Like, he was a bad guy when he was alive, when he was a normal race car driver, but the only thing we've really seen him do so far is destroy a road to help Rita. He's mostly been helpful. This contrasts with earlier in the episode when he very gently pets the kitten, and here... he can't feel his body. He can't feel what's going on with it. He doesn't know what it is. He doesn't realize the strength that he has. And I think that's the reaction. It's not about blacking out. It's not some mystery or something like that. It's he goes apeshit. He now has a robot metal body, rips these dudes apart, and doesn't realize what he did or what it looks like until Jane comes up to him. And I don't think he's ever killed a person. So it's just that crashing realization of that.
Yeah. Especially not like a boys' choir from middle Germany or whatever they were.
One last thing. Really like the teleporting moment when Jade's like, forget it. And they go there and immediately you're like, you could have done this the whole time.
The whole time.
Very funny moment as well.
Very fun.
And that's like back to like her thing of like, nobody's in control. It's like they do what they want when they want, you know? Mm-hmm. Like she can't make anybody do something that they don't want to do, so.
There you go.
Plus, sometimes the trip is, the traveling there is half the fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I've never heard that before.
Before we wrap up here, who was most doomed in this episode? Pete? Who was most doomed?
Yeah, I would say most doomed was that German team of people who got ripped to shreds.
Yeah, Von Fuchs, I agree with you, was very doomed. For a scientist who's powered by a hand crank, feels like maybe you're not focusing your energy where you need to be.
Yeah. Justin, what about you? Most doomed this episode?
I mean, it's a tough, like I said earlier, this show is doing a great job of making all the characters equally in the worst position. And I am going to go with Rita here. Rita feels like she's changing the least and is the least capable of sort of doing anything. She's barely holding it together, literally in the bathroom, trying to keep her body from falling apart. And she's not able to take any steps forward. It feels like Larry, at least, is maybe on the precipice of moving on.
Let's hope so.
And I'm going to give it up to Hannibal Lecter. I'm really worried about that little guy. We just know that he's lost.
So many people took the number to call. So
know,
maybe
but
somebody
Jane's going around putting those signs for the chief up there. They're going to forget about Hannibal very quickly.
How could you forget about Hannibal?
Alex, do you think he's lost or do you think he's finally free?
I think he probably found a bean, but it was some fava beans and a fine Chianti.
Oh, wow.
That's why you can't climb the bean with magnet feet. It's made of fava.
If you'd like to support our shows, patreon.com/Comic Book Club. Also, we do a live show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. to Crowdcast and YouTube. Come hang out. We'd love to chat with you about Doom Patrol. You can check us out at Comic Book Live, comicbookclublive.com for this podcast and many more. And as always, we're going to leave you with a piece of advice from Pete LePage. Pete, take it away. What's your big piece of advice for this week's episode?
Hey, maybe it's time that you're not ashamed. Maybe it's time to let your freak flag fly. Be okay with your candy drawer. All right? You don't have to hide your candy. Let people see it.
Wow. Advice to yourself.
Really beautiful. Pete, that got me.